Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another exciting episode of the Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. You guys know who it is. This is Tony Lynch. I am the host of this podcast, and we are your number one podcast for bringing you stories around death, dying, and grief, and all the messiness that comes in between that with some amazing people out here that are doing some amazing things and out here making a ripple effect in the world, changing lives one heartbeat at a time. Now, before I bring on the next guest, I would like to say that if this is your first time tuning in, do me a favor, head on over to that YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you'll be notified every time that we drop a new episode. But most importantly, if you know anyone who could benefit from the conversations that we have, please share it along with them. It's going to help them find avenues of healing, support, and resources as well. Yeah, and now before I bring on my next guest, I would like to say that this is for educational purposes only. And since this is a live stream, please put your questions and comments in the comment section. We'll be sure to answer them as we go. Now, without further ado, guys, help me welcome my next guest, Emily Barnes, to the show. Emily, how you doing, friend?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Thank you for joining me today.
You're welcome. I'm glad to be here.
Now, before we get started, introduce yourself. Tell people who you are, where you're from, and about the work that you do.
Okay. My name is Emily Bonds. I live in Katy, Texas, which is the best suburb of Houston. I am a mom, a wife, an insurance professional. I compete in pageants, which we'll get into later. Here's my friend, it's so shiny. And for a really long time, I was addicted to alcohol. And that's something now that I talk about. I had this crazy religious experience in a bathroom in Denver, Colorado, and I told God, if you'll help me get sober, I'll help other people. And that's why I'm here. It's this being on podcasts, doing pageants, speaking at live events. That's how I'm helping other people. And I know addiction is very hard to talk about, but it's something that we have to break the stigma of. And that's a part of my message, is breaking the stigma so that way other people can get the help they need.
And you know what? You're absolutely right. There should not be a stigma behind it because addiction is out here hurting people severely. And in order for us to even make a dent in this thing called addiction, we have to start having the conversations behind it. And so, and we talked, and I got the chance to know a little bit about your journey, or a lot more about your journey and things like that. And I would tell you, so courageous, so brave. And, to be out here doing what you're doing now, so inspiring, so very inspiring. And so thank you for the work that you do. Thank you for going out here and opening up the doors for people to have these conversations.
Well, thank you. It's definitely not something I thought I would be doing. When I was a kid, I obviously didn't grow. When I was a kid, I really wanted to be Miss America when I grew up, but I aged out of that about 12 years ago. But I didn't think that I would be telling people about addiction. I joke with my friends at church that my calling is to help people like me. And how come people like me couldn't have been like the people that adopt puppies or have I don't know, save the kittens, except mine's helping people with addiction. And it's definitely not what I thought I'd be doing when I grew up. Let me put it that way.
That's the truth. I mean, it's the truth. Like, no one wakes up and says, this is what I'm going to do. It often starts from something really, really small, and then it becomes a continuous thing, and then it kind of spirals out of control. And you and I talked about it. We have a lot of that in common, where we've both been alcoholics before. And Deborah Cherry's up here. How you doing, friend? Great to see you. She's another person, if you ever get the chance to connect with, she is freaking amazing. And she's doing some amazing things in the world as well. So one of my many amazing friends that I've had the honor and the privilege of meeting.
Hello, new friend.
She's on Instagram over here, and so I just messaged her back. So let's talk about how it started, Emily.
Yeah. So when I went off to college to big old Baylor University, I did not know how to handle being a normal fish in a bigger pond. I grew up in rural Texas, a little town called Mount Vernon. It's about maybe 1,500 people when someone hadn't died at the nursing home. It's
Yeah.
very, very rural, eighth smallest county in the state of Texas. When I lived there, there were 3 stoplights in the county, and now there might be 4. Like it was small town.
Uh-oh. Just freezing up a little bit, so you guys be a little patient and everything. Technology. This is it's beautiful when it works. Oh, there you go. She's back.
Okay, there. I'm back. All of a sudden it started spinning, and I was like, "Where did we go?" I don't know.
Hey, it happens. You know what? Technology is starting to mess up a lot more nowadays.
Yes,
right?
It's and allegedly we have someone that's supposed to be a tech guru who's helping out in the White House. And why is the technology now not working?
Because they're tech gurus in the White House.
Yeah, that's why. And now, because I had it happen on Google Meets too. I had a Zoom meeting the other day, and all of a sudden everything's crashing. I'm like, what is going on? We've been in this post-COVID world for 5 years now. All of this should just be working. This makes no sense.
Yeah, in a perfect world, you're absolutely right. But in this world, not today. Maybe they work out all the kinks. Maybe they don't. I really don't know at this moment. I really don't. Right now, I'm just playing it by ear. Okay.
Same.
Right now, I'm playing it by ear. But you were talking about the small town. Like right now, do you think there's maybe 4 stoplights in there? That's a small town.
Yeah, I think there's 4 in the county, not just the town, like the county. Yeah, so I'm from this. When people joke and say oh yeah, I'm from a small town, and they have 200 people in their graduating class in high school, I'm like, or 200 people, 400 people in their graduating class. I'm like, no, y'all, I had 80. It was small. It was very small. And so when I went off to college, Baylor's a private school. And so when I was around, Baylor's pretty famous, Baylor Bears, Waco, Texas. I was 200 miles from I was just excited to be in a town where they had a Dillard's in town. I thought that was very high class. And that there were more than 4 fast food restaurants. I thought that was just amazing. But when you go to a school like that, people have grown up with more resources. They had real AP biology where they actually got to cut on frogs, and you just weren't watching it. They just had a higher level of education in high school. And that really got to me, and I didn't think I belonged there. So one of the ways that I had seen growing up, people dealing with stress and dealing with not ideal circumstances was drinking. So I found somebody to buy me a bottle of Boone's Farm. And it was, I think at the time it was 89 cents, and I got the strawberry flavored. What I used to do to write term papers, to basically all of my homework, is I would put a bottle of Boone's Farm in here in Texas, they're Whataburger cups. They're like those huge 64-ounce, disposable cups. Yeah. But if you pay extra, you get the real plastic one, like you get from the movies, if you pay 99 cents. Then just put that in there, get a straw and just start drinking and tapping and drinking. And I would magically make A's and high B's on all of my term papers. I had really good grades in math because I guess I had great drunken recall. I don't know. But that's how I dealt with stress, is I just drank. And then after I graduated college, my husband and I got married. We had paychecks where if we had over $300 in our bank account, we could go to the bar. because when you're 23, it's like, yeah, I have my own paycheck. I'm gonna go to the bar. I just need $50 to pay my gas bill. It's fine.
Yeah.
So we turned into little weekend warriors. We would go out, and we lived in Dallas. We would go out to Uptown, which is where all the cool kids were. And I just turned into a weekend warrior. I started trying, like, not just Coors Light, but these high-end beers. Like, they were Belgian quads and triples, and they were, one little beer was something like 13% alcohol.
Yeah.
And I would have 3 of those and think I was the best thing since sliced bread. And, it's amazing that I didn't die of alcohol poisoning in my early 20s. I had a good time. Yeah. Now, was it a healthy time? No. But, yeah, that was kind of my introduction into alcohol. And do you kind of want me to go into, like, when it went over the line, or do you want to kind of, I can stop talking at any point.
No, please keep going. Like, take people on this journey, because look, and I'll share a little bit of mine as well, because alcohol was my downfall on many occasions, right? Rising up, what I'm saying, I would get to where I was okay in life, making decent money, and thinking to myself, like, I'm invincible. Like, nothing can stop me. I have nowhere else to go but up. And I would start drinking. And I was really good at drinking. And next thing you know, meet the right people, because birds of a feather flock together. And I would meet people that like to drink too. And the next thing you know, my life is falling apart. And I would find myself falling back down again. And it was like that for a very long time. I mean, 20 bouts of homelessness. And it wasn't, I didn't think I had a problem.
Yeah.
I didn't think I had a problem, right? You know what I'm saying? And just like yourself, I do growing up with Boone's Farm and Mad Dog 2020, Cisco, St. Ives,
the Spirit off Ices.
Yeah, so like the thing that they used to call Incredible Hulk, Alizé. Oh, and don't let me get Hennessy. Oh no,
Hennessy. Oh,
I had a Hennessy dealer. My man used to bring me cases at a time. Yeah, and I think the first time you drink a gallon of Hennessy, you think that you own something, right? Until you wake up the next day and realize that maybe that was a mistake.
Oh yeah.
So, on your journey.
Yeah, I have a story. My husband and I were, before I come on shows like this, we kind of think about, like, all the times that we were really lucky that neither one of us got just sick and ended up in the hospital. But there used to be this moonshine you could buy at the store. It was like old Kentucky, old Smoky or something. And anyway, yeah, and they had an apple pie flavored one. And it tasted real good, but it was like 50 proof. And we didn't really know what that meant. And we drank the whole, like, because it came in like what is it? Like a mason jar kind of, great marketing, right? And we drank like the whole thing, and it's amazing we did not die of alcohol poisoning in our own house.
Yeah.
Because and then they had moonshine cherries too, so we had a lot of those. And it's amazing we did not just, like, die at 24 in our house of just, like, alcohol poisoning. It was very, the Lord was watching us, even though we didn't deserve it. He was watching us. Look, it's just crazy the things that we've done.
Look, I'm right there with you. And while you was over there talking, my chest started getting hot, right? Because I remember, 50 proof wasn't a lot. right? I mean, it is, but it's,
Yeah.
you know,
No, we're like, oh yeah, it's not 100.
see, I come from a Gen X. I come from the Gen X generation, and back then, moonshine was not legal on the shelves.
Mm-hmm.
So you would find, like you would have to go out of state, but you can find that local moonshiner over in the Carolinas, the Appalachians, and things like that. And sometimes it was worth going out there, buying yourself a case of them, cost you a little bit of money, but it was definitely well worth it. And I'm telling you, when you get that 150 proof, you realize that case that you just got may last you a lot longer than what you think,
Yeah.
right? And me and my friends, we used to go over there and get that moonshine. And we started sipping on there. And of course, we was always out and ripping and running and things like that. And we used to have a little spot by the ocean. And the adults hung out on one side, children hung out on the other side, but no one really messed with nobody, right? We was like the kids was always, they used to tell us, look, go and play somewhere and don't come back and mess with us. They was over there drinking underneath the bush. We was over there drinking behind the building. So it was a perfect match, okay? And the first time we had the moonshine, because we had a buddy, an older buddy of ours that went over and picked it up and would bring it back. And, man, we was over there and started sipping. Everybody had that little mason jar, and the moonshine was always clear, right?
Mm-hmm.
We used to get to sipping on there, and like the third sip, you like, whoa, shoot, right? And the adults never checked up on us, so we could have been dead around the little building with alcohol, and no one would have even known, right? And so we decided one time to say, hey, you know what? We're going to take some of this. We're going to go to the bike trail. And what the bike trail was in the woods.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah, we built up a whole little fort over there and stuff. Like we had a little fort. We had a little creek over there. There's a little place we used to trap animals. And because we had to learn how to survive, right? So raccoons, possums, squirrels, muskrat and things like that. We learned how to skin them and eat them because that's how we learned how to survive, And we decided to have ourselves a little fire. and when you got 100 plus proof of moonshine, it ain't really hard to start.
No, it's real flammable.
Just very flammable, and so we thought that was the coolest thing, and so. Yeah, some of the things that we survived. You know what? I am so glad we didn't have phones.
Yes. Well,
but you can't prove that I did any of it.
Yeah. Well, see, because I got an iPhone, I guess it was like 13 years ago at this point.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that I have no record of my college years and that they're not really on the internet, except for there might be like 2 Facebook photos, because it was hard to put stuff on Facebook back then. Remember, you had to like scan it somewhere and then you had to upload it to your computer. So, but like these kids these days, you take a picture and it's on the internet in 3 seconds.
Yeah, all over the place too. I mean, don't get me wrong, technology has its place. It took me, I didn't really start doing social media till about 6 years ago. Right. Facebook and all of that. I tried many, many years ago and I just didn't like it. Right. I didn't like the fact that it was so easy for people to find me. And I have my son. And so, I never wanted my son's picture to be up on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
But there was the flip side of it was I wanted to know how my family was doing in Virginia because I hadn't been around for so long. And sure enough, one of the things that I tried to avoid came true. Wasn't even long after I got on Facebook, somebody had found me, and I was just like, I don't want to do this no more. And so I stayed off for a very long time, and for many, many years. And people say, you got Facebook? I don't even know what a Facebook is, or Instagram, Snapchat, or my place, I don't know what that, LinkedIn, I don't know what none of this stuff is.
Yeah.
And so I had to have a crash course 6 years ago.
You have to have it now. You have to.
All over the internet, just like, I don't even understand what just happened. Right? But I'm here.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't mean to take you away from your story. I
Oh
just
no.
want, you know, to
Oh
be able to
no.
put it out there. But you had a slow progression, though, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, you know,
Yeah.
moon.
It wasn't. I didn't just wake up one day and start drinking like 8 alcoholic drinks and 4 bottles of wine a day. It wasn't like a. It started in college, and then when we got married, we became weekend warriors. And I think when it and no, not think I know that I started crossing the line after I had our son, who's now 9. His name's Brody. Brody's the best.
Nice.
And I had my well-meaning pediatrician told me I was breastfeeding, new mom. It's 2015. Different time. It's just different time than it was a decade ago. It was a decade ago. It was just different. And my well-meaning pediatrician just said, "Hey, if you drink a dark beer, that could help with milk production." Well, golly geez, I'm going to drink too. I'm gonna be an overachiever. And so, and she said that you can drink the beer and feed the baby at the same time, because then by the time when you drink it, it's not metastasizing, and by the time you have to feed him again, it'll already be out of your system. It's like, oh, okay, fine, that sounds great. Yeah, so I would drink the dark beer, and while he's down for his nap, I'd have a mimosa. And then because I was a stay-at-home mom for a year, I have to throw that in there. So I was at home a lot by myself, because while I lived close to my in-laws, they had their own thing they were doing. They weren't necessarily checking in on the new mom. My family lived 2 hours away. And we had friends from church, but they had their own stuff they were doing. They were new parents. They were trying to get pregnant. They had jobs.
Right.
I was just stay-at-home mom, not knowing what to do. But put the baby down for a nap, have a mimosa or two. Okay, now it's lunchtime. Oh, I think I'll have a glass of wine with my chicken, because that's totally fine, because I saw it on TV. And while I'm making dinner, I'm gonna have an old fashioned and maybe a glass of wine instead. And I'll wait till my husband gets home for dinner, and I'll make him an old fashioned and me one. So before you know it, I've had 6 drinks in one day. And I didn't really think about it. I was like, oh, they're spaced out. It's not like I'm sitting here chugging Boone's Farm like I did back in the day.
Yeah.
It's spaced out over the day. It's totally fine. And really, if you think about it, I was having, let's just say 5 drinks. Let's just go with 5. 5 times 7 is 35. So I was having 30, at the low end, 35 drinks a day. I mean, 35 drinks a week, which is way over the average that you're supposed to have.
Right.
So that's definitely when I started crossing the line. I did end up going back to work when he was about a year old, so the day drinking ended. But the night drinking continued. I'd make dinner. We'd have, make dinner, have a glass of wine while making dinner, have a glass of wine while eating dinner, and then have a nightcap. 3 or 4 drinks a night. Didn't even think about it. And I didn't think about it. And it was normal, as everybody else I knew was drinking too. Everybody drank. And I think I know. When it went to just an extreme was during COVID. We were all at home. We were all ordering groceries. We were, they were basically giving liquor away at the liquor store. It was like, come in, please pay us money. Take what you have. Take whatever you want. They had lots of sales. And at one point, I was drinking about 4 bottles of wine a day. Sometimes 3, sometimes 2, sometimes bourbon. It just depended. And I knew what I was doing was wrong, but I didn't care. I was filled with so much anxiety, so much comparison of myself and other people. I didn't care. And alcohol was the way to kind of keep my brain mellow and keep me mellow. So I didn't have to think about any anything bad. And I knew I needed to stop drinking, but I didn't know how. I didn't know how to do it. So I just was like, well, it'll be fine. It'll all work itself out. It'll be fine. And I knew that wasn't the answer. It wasn't until we were on vacation for our 10-year anniversary, early 2021, January to be specific. We got really cheap flights to Denver on Southwest. It was something like $100 because they were trying to get people to travel again. And like, yes, I'll go to Denver for like $400, both, $100 there, $100 back, two people. I'll go for $400. And there was a very nice Hyatt in downtown Denver, where the top room was usually thousands of dollars a night. It was only $200 a night at the time because they wanted people to travel so bad. So we stayed for a week in this fancy, penthouse, beautiful room. And, so we were all hyped up. We got there, and the first thing we did is we went out drinking. We had a great time. And by we, I mean mostly me. My husband, he never really cared much for alcohol. He would drink if I was drinking, but we would never drink as much as I did. And that's something I always tell people, like, he never had a problem. He would like fake drink, and I would just be over here like, oh, that's so bad. But yeah, he was never drunk. But we drank so much, we got back to the hotel room, and it was about 2:00 in the morning. We closed the bars down, and why not? We're on vacation. And I got back to the hotel, and I told my husband, this hotel had 2 bathrooms. That's how big this room was. It had 2 full bathrooms. It was fancy. Yeah. And so I was like, hey, I'm taking this one. You take the other one. And so I just start dry heaving. All the pizza I ate. Of course, when you drink, you got to eat. All the pizza, the queso, the weird Cuban food we tried that day. It just all made an appearance. And at some point I blacked out. And hours later, I woke up and I was staring at the ceiling. I was like, oh, how did I get here? This is interesting. Oh, this is so cool. And I tried to get up, but my hair, my beautiful blonde golden locks, they were frozen to the bathroom floor by my own vomit. Because at some point I had vomited, fallen backwards, probably vomited on myself while laying down, and I'm lucky I didn't asphyxiate. And there was just dried vomit, and so much of it that literally like this much of my hair, like grab a handful, it was just frozen to the bathroom floor. It was, and because it's Denver, it gets cold there.
Yeah, in the wintertime, yeah.
Yeah, it was January. It was cold. And I couldn't get up because so much of it was stuck. And so I literally had to take my hand and like chivvy it off the floor. And I sat up and I looked at where I was. And if I had fallen a little bit differently, I would have fallen in the toilet bowl and choked on toilet bowl water at 33 years old. And I would have died right there. And so I was like, wow, this is crazy. This is insane. And so I got up and I looked at myself in the mirror, and I heard this little voice, and it sounded like a bell. That's the best way to describe it. It was a bell. And I know now it was the Holy Spirit. And he said, are you done yet? And I was like, what? Are you done yet? I was like, yes, I'm done. And if you'll help me quit this, I'm going to help other people. And that was January 8th of 2021. And I haven't had a drink since. And, and a part of that, I got on the airplane on the way home, and my husband was like, are you sure you don't want a margarita? Because I despise flying. I hate flying. hate it with a passion. And I said, no, I think I'm going to read a book. So I downloaded a audiobook. It was Alan Carr's The Easy Way to Quit Drinking.
Mm-hmm.
And I listened to that all the way home. And I was like, and basically what that book does is it basically talks you out of drinking.
Right.
And so I was like, oh, wow. Okay, this makes sense. I don't need to drink anymore. I don't need to drink. And, the rest is history. I tried to find an AA group. I get that question a lot. Like, did you go to AA? Well, a lot of the AA groups were still meeting on Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
The idea of bearing my soul to a bunch of strangers, of course, that's what I'm doing right now. But the idea at the time of like talking to random people over Zoom or meeting at a church and with like strangers that I didn't know was very intimidating to me. And we'll get into later, but a lot of recovery groups are geared towards men. And I really wanted to find like a female group. And there wasn't an option on that on the AA website. There was no female group. I think there was like one, but it met at 2 a.m. because of the time zone it was in.
Mm-hmm.
So there wasn't really an option for that. And I tried to find somewhere here locally to maybe go to an outpatient or maybe even an inpatient just to like talk to somebody. And there were no, and there still aren't, there's no treatment facilities around me. There were some that were, again, focused on men only. There was nothing for me. So I literally read Alan Carr's The Easy Way to Quit Drinking multiple times. There's also another book I read. It's called Quit Like a Woman. And I don't remember who wrote it. I think her first name is Whitney something. I should probably remember that. I never remember it when I'm talking about it. And I read the Bible front to back 3 times, like the first year. And did I understand what I was reading? Not exactly. Kind of like, so I'm not going to spoil Wicked for anybody that hasn't actually watched the musical, but there's a point in it where Elphaba's reading from a spell book, and there's a line, and she's like, I don't even know what I'm reading. I didn't know what I was exactly reading, but I read it. I didn't understand some of it. Actually, like 90, not 90, maybe like 40% of it didn't quite understand. But I mean, that's what I had to do. And I know that's a part of my mission is to end the stigma so we can get more women in treatment. We can get more resources for women because so many of them are geared towards men. And while there are more men that are struggling with alcohol and substance use disorder, women are catching up. If you think about it, we've got more women in the workplace than ever. There's all sorts of double standards for women. You have to be, you have to kill the meat, you have to bring home the meat, you have to cook it, and you have to be slim while you do it. And there's just unrealistic expectations due to Instagram and Twitter, and not Twitter, X. But there's a lot of unrealistic expectations, so a lot of women are drinking.
Yeah.
And there was some crazy statistic that women with children under 5 during the pandemic, like their alcohol consumption went up over 1,000%. Yeah, that's a statistic, I think, from Good Morning America, and I could have the number wrong, but it was some crazy amount that you're like, what? But I mean, it's a growing problem. Women having alcohol use disorder. It's a growing problem.
Yeah.
And it's something not being talked about. And that's my mission, is to talk about it, get it out in the open, and help people get the help they need.
Yeah. And see, I'm I've always looked at the other side of it, right? Because being a man and things like that, I've had my bout with alcoholism more than once until, just like everything else. Like, I've never gone to AA. I never went to there are groups or anything like that because it just wasn't for me.
Mm-hmm.
And just the opposite. When I did try out here in Colorado, it was geared more towards women.
Huh.
Just like more, just like most of the groups out here. And what I found, especially doing the work that I do in grief, most of the groups are always geared towards women.
Right.
And so, it was for me to see something like that. I was just like, wow, we have to change something, because for one, I pay attention to a lot of the stats as well. And normally what I pay attention to, the same thing, the addiction rate, suicide, homelessness, traumas and things like that. And I've seen the increase on the opposite end, and during COVID, for the time that was in COVID, I watched a huge spike, which was my cue to say, we got to change something. Like it was pretty much impossible for me when I was going through the losses that I had to endure, to find anywhere. Most of them, I would get these signs. Hey, we accept men, women, children, and everything. But when I would go to these groups,
you were it.
Majority women, right? There was hardly any kids in there, but they were already in there. But it was all women. And so when I went to the second one, I said, I'm looking around, and I'm going, where are all the men at? They're like, oh, they used to come, but they stopped coming. Light bulb went off.
Mm-hmm.
I said, oh, I get it now. And they was like, what do you think? Like, are you going to come back? I said, no, I'm not going to come back. I'm not. They said, why? I said, you ever wonder why the men don't come and everything? They was like, no, it's pretty. I said, because of the simple fact of the thought pattern of men. If you put men in this room, automatically our minds switch over to we have to be strong. We cannot be open and vulnerable, because the last thing that we want you to see is that us at our weakness. And although this is maybe just an assumption, this is the way that we have been raised. Mm-hmm. Right. And then on top of that, if you put too many men in the same room, women, we tend to have to compete to show our macho-ness, our masculine. We have to prove that regardless if we got a woman or not at home, we have to show you that, hey, I'm a great mate. Look at me. Beat my chest type thing, right? And so it kind of defeats the purpose. And so that's one of the reasons why I said, you know what, we men need a safe space to be able to go and sit down and to be able to address those things. And then I began to tie everything together. Right, mm-hmm. The addiction, the traumas, the mental health, all of those different things, and so that's where my philosophy came from. When you come into our support groups, we work on the whole man and not parts of you, because for one, we understand how they all connect together. So it was, to hear you say that it was all geared towards men, I was like, wow.
Yeah, it was like all of the online. I wanted to find a specific AA meeting, since everything was shut down still because it was the COVIDs. I wanted to find one that was specifically for women. And when I went online, and maybe I searched the wrong way, that's totally possible, because they are going to take my millennial card, because sometimes my technology use isn't the greatest. But when I searched, I couldn't find a men specific. I mean, not men. I'm a woman. A woman specific group, and I found several groups for like Spanish speaking, German speaking, French speaking, but there wasn't a female specific group. I also found several like LGBTQ groups, but there was nothing like specifically for women. And the ones that were meeting in person here in Katy, a lot of them were Spanish speaking groups. A lot of them, they weren't geographically close to me. It was going to be more of a burden for me to go. Like there was a meeting, but it was an all encompassing meeting, everybody, like, and a lot of the meetings too were some of them were during the day. And at the time and I still work today. Like I had a job and I couldn't exactly drive 40 minutes to go to this random meeting and then drive, that's the whole day. That's your entire working day.
Right.
So it wasn't And just like a lot of things in life, it wasn't set up for me to succeed. A lot of like, I have a whole side tangent about how the world's not set up for women to succeed necessarily professionally. So anyway, I won't go into that. But um, but it didn't seem like it was a program that I could utilize. And maybe if I had tried harder, yeah, maybe, and maybe it would have been easier. But at the time, even inpatient facilities, there weren't any within a 15-mile radius of my house
Mhm.
because I live in a very, I wouldn't call it affluent. I live like a nice area here in Houston. If you look up Cinco Ranch, it's very nice. It's very fluffy, very first world problems sort of situation. And let's be honest, if you live in a house that's worth 400, 500, $600,000, do you want a substance and alcohol use treatment facility in your neighborhood? No, no, no. So there wasn't, again, anything close to me. So I had to kind of, and pardon the pun, but I kind of had to grab the bootstraps and just go for it because there was
Right.
no other option. It was either do that or keep doing what I was doing. And if I had kept going at the rate I was, I would not be alive today.
Right.
So I had to, rely on the Lord and read a lot of books and just go for it because I had everything to lose. I had my life to lose, and I wasn't ready to die yet.
Which leads me to my next question, because here you are going through all of this. How did your husband receive this? Was he very? I mean, because a lot of times when one person is drinking, the other person is not, and things like that, there can be a conflict of interest, and things like that. But sometimes, in some cases, that the significant, their partners are like, I support this, right?
Yeah.
A whole 100%. So how was that?
Well, he thought that it was another one of my fly-by-nights attempts to stop drinking. As I, every couple of months, it's, oh, I'm not going to drink anymore. And then 2 weeks later, something bad happens at work and I'm guzzling my margaritas away because it's COVID and you can get them delivered to the house. So he thought it was just another phase and it would go away. And then after several weeks, he realized it wasn't a phase. And he told me, hey, if you're not going to drink, I'm not going to drink either. And he hasn't drank since he hasn't drank either, which it was good boot camp for him because we go to Second Baptist Church. It's a huge church here in Houston. And they asked him to be a deacon. And that's a deacon's like a normal person who, like normal people, they're not on staff, but they're everyday people men that they ask to like serve in the church and to volunteer and to do things. So he got asked to be a deacon, and it's a really big deal. But one of the things about being a deacon is here at Second is that you can't drink when you're on active deacon service. And so when they were talking to him about like being a deacon, he was like, oh, it's fine. My wife doesn't drink. Emily used to be addicted to alcohol, so I don't drink either. So it did not faze him. And they were like, oh yeah, I forgot that about Emily. I forgot. So he doesn't drink either. And it's a great testimony for him when he's out. He's in the insurance industry and there's a lot of drinking that goes on. And when he's out with clients or agents, they're having their bourbons. It's, oh, Scotty B, why aren't you drinking? Well, I'm a deacon at Second Baptist Church, and when you're on active deacon service, you don't drink. Oh, that's so cool, man. That's so cool. So it's a good story for him too. But it's interesting you bring up when you stop drinking, what does your partner do? If you look at all the stats or just think about anything, when a man gets in trouble, I think of all these men that are like, they're in prison, they're on death row, but they have pen pals, female pen pals, right, that are in love with them and that write them all the time. or that, when you get out of rehab, your wife is always there to get you. When a female goes into rehab, you have about a 15% chance of your husband, your boyfriend, your partner being there when you get out. It is a complete different double. It's a very double standard. And I don't know why that is. And I got that statistic and that kind of train of thought. There's a great book that was written about Betty Ford. Not only was she the coolest first lady we've ever had in this country, but she was a great, she had addiction problems. She was an alcoholic. But she took her, her recovery experience and built the Betty Ford Clinic, which is world famous today.
Yeah.
And she was also, and this is something that gets lost too. She got diagnosed with breast cancer while she was first lady. Wow. And at the time, you didn't say breast on national television. And if it hadn't have been for her, thousands of women wouldn't have gone to the doctor, wouldn't have gotten checked out. And where we are with breast cancer research today, we wouldn't be here. It would still be in the closet kind of cancer that we don't talk about. So if I'm ever asked that in an interview, Betty Ford is my favorite first lady.
No, I love that, right? Because there's a lot right there that you just put out on the table and what's a lot of awareness to, and I hope that the women that are listening right now are taking notes. And if you are struggling, know that there's help out there for you. And also hope, right? You just hear Emily say, all of these things that she's gone through, the ups and downs, the darkness, the chaos, and how she pretty much turned her life around. But we haven't even gotten to the good part yet, right? We haven't gotten to the good part. So you did something wonderful with this, and you started doing pageants.
Yeah, I started doing pageants. So, and it's real funny because people are like, how does pageantry play into your addiction work? And well, they want you to have some sort of volunteer thing that you do, some sort of, they call it a platform. And I've been sober roughly 1,000 days when I kind of decided to start pageantry. And I told God that I would help other people, but I didn't know how to do it. Mm-hmm. I didn't know how. And I'd been wrestling with that for months. Like I didn't know what to do. And I reached a place where I was finally, I felt like I had some authority on my story, mm-hmm. but I didn't know what to do. And it wasn't until January of 2024, which was last year, my father-in-law passed away. He had battled for many years with bladder cancer, and he went home to the Lord, and now he's fully restored, and he's playing tennis all day, not pickleball. He's playing tennis because his rotator cuff is fully healed.
Yeah.
So anyway, I always like to tell people that. But my husband, we were sitting there, we just buried his father. And he asked me, like, what is something crazy you'd want to do? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know. And he was like, well, what is a dream you've always had? And he said that he had always dreamed to run with the bulls in Spain. And we were going to do it in 2024. And I was like, we're going to do it? Okay. And he got online and started like booking plane tickets and looking up when they ran in Pamplona. And he was like, okay, we've got to go to passport. We got to, like, he was on it. And he kept asking me, like, what is something you'd want to do? And I said in this little bitty voice, I do married lady beauty pageants. I've always wanted to try one, but I'm going to talk about it. And he was like, yeah, that's awesome. Let's go pay some money and get you in a pageant. It could be, what do you have to lose, Emily? Like, I don't know, a couple of $1,000. Like, I don't know what I have to lose. And, and so I got online, researched a pageant system, entered, bought a dress, got connected to a pageant coach, had a great time, did not place, did not win, but I had an excellent time. And I decided it was something I wanted to pursue. So I started practicing more, started going on podcasts. I learned how to walk correctly. There's a whole science about modeling that I had no idea. I just thought you just walked like a normal person, like you do on the street. But no, there's a whole like presentation that you have to do, and you're with your to make your back straight. There's a whole thing. And but pageants, they make you speak out, and pageants have given me a platform to talk about addiction, to talk about alcohol use disorder, to talk about how we need to get more resources out to people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I do it. I would never in my life buy an evening gown and walk around and, you know, wear crowns on my head. I just won about a month ago, won a pageant, and I'm getting ready for nationals. But in a million years, I would not do that but I've got to fulfill this is how the Lord has kind of showed me. It's my way of fulfilling that promise that I made to him. Competing in pageants makes me get out there. It makes me contact people to get on their podcasts and their live streams, because I'm actually a very introverted person. I'm very introverted. I'm not going to be the person at the party just saying, "Hey, look at me." Like, no, that's not me. But I made this promise to God, and I'm fulfilling the promise.
That is amazing. That is truly amazing, because you just laid something out like every opportunity that sometimes people don't even think about. As a matter of fact, I was just talking to somebody about that earlier. I was telling them, I was like, look, if you can't see the bigger picture in what you do, you'll always be limited into what you think, right? Because our brains will limit us because it wants to keep us safe. And if you're one of those individuals that like to overthink things, of course, you may miss out on an opportunity to reach the level that you have the possibility, the possibility to have, right, and do bigger things. And I'm right there with you. Like to be honest with you, when I first started doing podcasting and nonprofit work and working with men and things like that, I pretty much came in with the thought of, I just want to help. I just want to create a space for men to be able to come and have, be surrounded by other men and be supported by other men, and to be able to be open and vulnerable, to be able to talk about what's going on, about the losses, and to be able to provide resources and so and support for those individuals in every aspect of it. And that's all I really wanted. That's all I really saw. And like you, I'm an introvert. So people are like, "Oh, you're gonna have to do this." I said, "No. You got me messed up." And so I used to always be like, I knew I had all of this knowledge, this from this thing called grief, and I wanted to teach someone else how to do it, and kind of like just be in the shadows and everything. And I'm telling you, the joke that was played on me, that person was with me for a little bit, and that person's like, "Hey, I'm going to be moving, so here I am by myself, but I still know that I'm supposed to do this, right?"
Mm-hmm.
And someone else came, and I remember talking with God. I said, "Look, you're going to have to bring somebody else." He goes, "Nope, you're going to have to do it." I said, "Do you not? I don't want to go out there and do it. I don't want my face being seen on social media. I don't want to do none of this." And God said, "Oh, excuse me, you are."
Yeah.
And I'll tell you how it's so funny, because I was telling some people that I was working with, and it was like, and I was telling them about this whole nonprofit idea and everything, and that I was going to do this, and they were like, "Man, you should do it, right?" I said, "Yeah, I should, right?"
Yeah.
I don't want to be out. I don't want to facilitate groups. Although I just became a grief coach and I got my recovery certification. Then I got my mental health certificate, and I was like, "I don't want you to. How about you come and help me, and then I'll show you how to." No, I don't want to do it. So I'm like, "All right, wow."
it's like, it's all on me. I gotta do it. It's like,
Right?
Lord, thank you for this, but I hate you at the same time.
Yeah, I didn't even say that. I did everything I could to stay out of it, and it was a series of events. So now someone else heard about what I was doing. He had a connection with somebody in the nonprofit field, and so now he introduced me to that individual. So now I'm speaking it like I'm doing it. I
Yeah.
don't have no idea about how to do it or anything like that, but I spoke it because it was my truth, right? And so I spoke it into existence. Then I said, "Hey, whoa, hold on. I wasn't expecting this." And then I met another, and then they introduced me to another lady that she ran a group. And and so I'm involved in that. And then I met other people, and now they invited me to They invited me to all these little seminars. And so
Oh,
now I'm
wow.
like, okay, I'm not quite sure what I'm supposed to do, but I go to the seminars because now I'm around like some of the wealthiest people in northern Colorado.
Oh.
And here I am, this little poor boy, right? You know what I'm saying? And I'm homeless, and no one knew I was homeless, right? You know what I'm saying? But I would go to my buddy's house, take a shower, throw on some clothes, and right out the door again. And I go on down there like I knew what I was doing and things like that. And so I learned how to just be in a room with people. And then when people go, "Hey, what do you do?" Then I would talk to them. And then next thing you know, I'm like the shiny thing in the room.
Right.
Everybody know what Tony is doing. Who is this Tony? Why haven't we heard of you? And so I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm up here with these individuals. So then I started meeting. From there, the mayor and the governor found out, heard about me and was like, you should come to this event. So now I'm in there with people in the office, judges,
Oh,
police officers, and the word police officer, I was like, I don't want to be around him. No, no, no. But then they were like, who is this Tony? And now I'm meeting all these other people. So now I'm meeting more wealthy people in Northern Colorado, right? It all started off with an idea.
right.
And so then COVID hit, and I was like, okay, I need to get an office space because I don't want to stop what I'm doing. So that's what I did. And then from there, everything, it was the sequence of events that kept happening. And then somebody that saw me on Facebook and was like, hey, I would love to have you on my podcast. I'd never done a podcast before. So,
Right.
this individual gave me an opportunity to come up there. And then from there, I was like, man, I really enjoy this, right? But when you first start, you don't really have your story down packed. You just have the main things that change you and why you do what you do. And then from there, another person invited me to come do some guest speaking at a school. So I went and did that. I'm like, I don't even like this. And so, but I loved it, right? So
Right.
now it was just these sequence of events. And then I said, you know what? I want to start a podcast. So I started doing that. And and I started getting out there a lot more. And I'm just like, oh my God, here we go. Here we go. And it was just this consistent thing that kept happening. And I got more familiar with talking and meeting more people. Now, I'm still an introvert, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I fell in love with it though, right? Because just like yourself, it gave me a platform to be able to have conversations with people about these things that we're talking about now: the addiction, mental health, people who are dealing with, the thoughts of taking their lives, grief, trauma. And 6 years down the road, and I could say I never saw any of this coming. Right? I never saw any of this. Look. Every time I do these things, I'm like a kid in the candy store.
Oh,
Right?
yeah.
Ooh, you ever see the kid that gets his present for the first time, the little baby, and the baby's eyes
And
get
it's
all,
like this.
and you just want to rip open the package just to see what it is, and it don't matter what it is. I'm going to play with the box anyway. You know what I'm saying? I don't even want the toy. I want the box. So
Right.
it didn't matter what was inside of it. I just wanted the box. And I've been falling in love with it every day since then. And so, just like yourself, it was like one thing after another, one thing after another. And now, I got 2 books. I got here 2 books that I've written, conferences that I've hosted, magazines that I started, programs that I've written. And I'm still sitting over here going like this, okay, what else can I do?
Right.
So now I got an app that I'm doing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm developing an app. I was like, who does this, right? Like, this is crazy. And then, and now I'm in the process of I'm designing a game around grief, right? A very educational game around grief. Now, I didn't know what I was doing, but I'm learning it and everything.
Like, that sounds fun and slash very intimidating, but I'm glad you're doing it. You got to try something new.
You always got to try something new, right? But when you think about the possibilities, it's like you can include so much into there, right? You make the game a conversational game to where you play out these different scenarios. Maybe
Right.
a person is addicted to drugs, and maybe a person is dealing with extreme mental illness. Maybe and all of these different aspects of it. And so I'm exploring that, and I'm putting it on paper. I'm developing in the app and stuff like that, And then I was like, okay, with the app, I said, you know what? What if there's a place that people can find all of these resources in one general area, all across the state, no matter where you're at? I said, okay, let's do it. So I've been doing that. And then I said, you know what? Let's do one more. Let's develop some animations for children to help them express their feelings, but also something fun that they can relate to, which will help them open up the doors to be able to talk on a different level.
Yeah.
So just like yourself, you being up on stage and doing pageants and things like that, you built an amazing platform to be able to talk about the things that you've gone through, bringing more awareness to it, right?
Right.
And helping these women out here find support through your story. So it's this thing is truly amazing in everything that it does. Now, as we begin to wrap this up, because I don't want to keep you too late and everything, because I know you got.
I gotta go make dinner.
I know, and I appreciate you having these conversations with me. Had a blast with you. So I have 2 more questions for you. One, how can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram. It's Emily C. Bonds. It's also my TikTok handle. I have a website. It's emilycbonds.com. My Facebook is private because I just have it that way and I don't know how to unprivate it. So find me on the gram.
Awesome, guys. Her information is in the description in the YouTube channel. Go there. I got a website in there, so go in there and check out her website and everything. She has a lot of other things that she got going on as well. So now my second question to you would be, if you had a superpower, what would it be?
I wish, and this is because I'm a mom of 2 kids and a husband, and I have a big girl job too, and just because I'm a person, I wish I could think in my mind like, okay, I want to make lasagna, and then lasagna magically appeared. I didn't have to go to the store. I didn't have to make a grocery list. It just shows up, and it's healthy lasagna. Like, it's made with the 2% milk cheese and the healthy wheat noodles. Or I could just go, okay, I really wish I had tacos, and magically they're just made. I want magical meal prep powers. That's what I want.
I love it. I truly love it. And with that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap up this episode of the Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. Emily, thank you for coming on, sharing your story, sharing your laughs, and your powerful story journey with us, and inspiring other people out there to go out there and seek the help and support that they need in their addictions and things like that, because you've just given a lot of people hope that it is possible. Unfortunately, there's going to be a lot of people that have to hit their version of rock bottom before they ask for the help, but they know that there's people like you out there that's willing to give them a helping hand and saying, hey, girl, it's time to pull up your big girl pants and it's time to get down to business, But we got a lot of work to do. Let's get on it. And so for everyone else that have been tuning in, thank you guys for tuning in over here, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube and Twitter and Twitch. Thank you guys for tuning in and just enjoying these conversations. But most importantly, if you know anyone who can benefit from the conversation that we have, please share this along with them. And with that being said, guys, we're going to wrap this one up. This is the last one of the day. I promise you, you won't see me again until tomorrow, and so be sure to tune in for that. And of course, if this is your first time tuning in, go on over to that YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you'll be notified every time that we drop a new episode. Emily, again, thank you so much for this opportunity. For everyone else, we're gonna wrap this up. Peace. Have an amazing night.